Well, as I said, it's always a very tough act to follow a president, but it's always also tougher to follow our president after his speech, because a lot of the things that he has said we're going to cover throughout these 3 days. Let me start by thanking the organizers that have joined the Argentine government through the Argentina's embassy in the United States in putting together this extraordinary event. JP Morgan, Bank of America, CASEC, and a special thanks to our ambassador, Alec Oxenford, and his team at the embassy and the New York consulate as well, who have worked tirelessly to put this event together. Thanks to our strategic partners, thanks to Citi, AmCham, U.S. Argentina Business Council, American Society, Council of the Americas, and thank you to for our colleagues for being here, because what we're going to try to do this next couple of days is to show you and showcase the opportunities that Argentina has for you all going forward. One of the things that each member of the team is very focused on is in creating the conditions for private sector investment to thrive. And let me do some recollection of the path that we have taken during this a bit more than 2 years. Because it's important to recognize the fact that when we got here, we had a situation in which we had total lack of credibility. Argentina had lost its credibility, had lost its hope, and there were lots of skepticism. We were facing, as the president said, a 15 percentage points of GDP consolidated deficit. We had remunerated liabilities equivalent to 3 times the monetary base. We have the equivalent of $90 billion of debt maturing daily, on the verge of hyperinflation, while it was running at a rate of 1.5% daily. Society had lost total hope. We were not credible anymore. We had to rebuild credibility through results, and we had to deliver them fast. Many questions were on everyone's minds. Will they be able to do it? Will the opposition allow them to do it? Will they have the popular support? We started building those conditions the first day, in putting our finances in order, creating the macroeconomic stability that, that through our actions recreated credibility. We reached fiscal equilibrium in a month. We solved the situation at the central bank in 6 months. We had a ley bases that we passed on by the middle of our first year, which allowed Federico to engage in a very encompassing deregulation effort. But all in all, we did this in gaining credibility, respecting rule of law. And that is also very important in what we do, because one way of earning credibility is honoring our obligations. Argentina in the past has had failed in many times in taking, the short run into this problem. We defaulted. We had price controls. We had, we had monetary financing of our deficits, and we had a president that was resolute in changing that forever. On the political front, we started with the lowest representation in Congress since we returned to democracy in 1983. People don't remember, usually don't realize that. I actually realized about that back in September of last year, before the elections. we had only 10% of the Senate and 15% of the lower house. On average, since we returned to democracy in 1983, every government have had at least 45% of representation in Congress and half of the governors under the political sphere. But despite that low representation, we were able to pass on ley bases, and with that, 3 major pieces of legislation. As I said, we had delegated powers that allowed Federico to pursue the most aggressive deregulation reform in the world. We had suspension of the primaries that allowed us to avoid a much lengthier electoral process in 2025. And we had RIGI. After that, Congress started testing our resolve. They passed bills that were going against our fiscal equilibrium, and the president showed his resolve and conviction to veto them. Despite that, the opposition left us without a budget in 2025, despite presenting it with fiscal surplus. And in 2025, heading into the election, they tried everything. They passed on about 40 laws in which they tried to derail our fiscal equilibrium. But our macro fundamentals were so strong that we were able to withstand the storm. And then the midterm elections came, and we had a landslide victory. President said 41 percentage points. We had a 17 percentage points advantage, the largest ever. We won 50% of the seats in play in the lower house, 2/3 in the Senate. Peronism lost the first minority in the lower house and the position in the Senate. We won 13 out of 24 provinces. These are all results, but it shows that one of the questions that we had at the beginning, which was whether we're going to have popular support, the question was answered. And since the change in composition in Congress has only made us double or triple our efforts in terms of how fast we need to go. We have this sense of urgency because we have a window under which we can consolidate whatever we have done through this last 2 years and going into the future. The change in composition in Congress has allowed us to pass on significant legislation by calling into 2 extraordinary sessions. As soon as the Congress changed, we called an extraordinary session in December. We got the budget approved with fiscal surplus. The first budget approved in 3 years. Argentina was running without a budget for the last 3 years. It didn't matter much to us because at the end of the day, we knew that we were committed to our fiscal equilibrium. So we kept our fiscal balance and our fiscal equilibrium despite not having a budget. In the past, when the opposition didn't approve their own budget when they had majority, was to hide their ability to overspend and continue raising deficits. In addition to approving the budget law in December, we also approved the fiscal innocence law, which is crucial. I mean, I call it the mattress law, as it will allow people to put their savings back, the savings that they took out of the financial system, back into the financial system, and that in itself is going to help also grow our economy. During February, we accelerated. We had a very busy February and pushed and approved very significant laws. The labor modernization law, which is crucial also in order to bring our informal economy into the formal sector. The juvenile delinquency law. The Mercosur UE agreement got approved. And we have a half a vote on glaciers law. What we have done during the first 2 years was create the conditions from the executive power to make it happen. to set up the foundation for growth for many decades. By getting the mandate from the society to keep pursuing this reformist agenda, we now have the Congress composition to accelerate on our reform agenda. And this is a testament of, we've created the conditions from the executive power. We now can create the conditions and fundamentally change Argentina for decades by passing these laws. We have many projects that we're going to propose to Congress, as President said, during these 2 years that are coming soon. And they're all going to the same direction, creating the conditions for investment to thrive in Argentina. And this is the reason why we're here gathered today, to show you and to tell you what we're doing so that you are comfortable investing in Argentina, that we have created the conditions for you to invest, to grow, to hire people, and more importantly, to do with your profits whatever you wish to do. One of the, interesting aspects of my new job is how to intertwine the things that we're doing locally with how that does project into the world. Trade, investment, geopolitical forces, all have to be in sync to cement the growth that we are looking at. One of the important laws that were approved in 2024 without very low representation in Congress was the RIGI project, this investment program for large investments, which in itself has been very successful, and after the midterm elections is going to continue that success. We have had so far 12 projects approved, $26 billion of investment committed. We're in the process of analyzing 20 other projects with $43 billion of additional investment, total about $70 billion investment. We just, a couple of weeks ago, extended RIGI, application for RIGI until July 2027, which is a feature that the law allowed us to do. We also added E&P upstream for oil and gas projects. We changed the threshold in that respect. I'm sure Daniel is going to talk about that throughout the Argentina week. And through the labor modernization law, we have added RIMI, which is the investment regime for medium investments. And we are able to do this because every decision that we make in terms of the investment climate will never put at risk our main anchor, which is a fiscal equilibrium. We make decisions as the ones we made 2 years ago in eliminating impuesto país and other taxes, and we continue pushing the needle towards attracting investment without affecting our fiscal equilibrium. Geopolitically, the president has been very clear since his campaign on where he wanted to position Argentina. He wanted Argentina to defend Western values. He wanted an Argentina that forged a strategic alliance with the United States and Israel. The homework that we did throughout these 2.5 years, not only, they seem like 20 years, but it's not 2.5 years yet, the homework that we did is what has garnered our support from the international community and the US specifically. When back in early 2025, before we negotiated the new IMF program, we got the US support and the international community support as well. When we faced difficulties ahead of the election, when all these politicians tried to derail our program, the US was there to support us. And that is very important because, as you all know, we have a lot of our past in front of us. And we have to double our efforts to leave that past behind. And having an ally such as the United States is critical in leaving that history behind. We recently signed a reciprocal trade and investment agreement, which, in addition to improving our trade position vis-a-vis the United States, it creates a highway of investment, which goes to the center of what President Milei said, which is protecting private property. And one of the things that we're doing is reciprocal trade and investment agreement is exactly protecting intellectual property, something that was neglected in Argentina for many, many years. We've also become a founding member of the Board of Peace, which is critical for the reconstruction of Gaza and bringing peace to different initiatives that the UN supports. We also led a like-minded group of Latin American countries that, together with the United States, met in this last Saturday in Miami with President Trump and his cabinet to make sure that we can collaborate on border security and the fight against narco-terrorism. As I said, we signed the Mercosur-UE agreement. It was 26 years in the making. We don't have that time. And that's why we are running against time to put together as many commercial agreements and investment agreements as we can. We were the first country to have the law, the approval of the Mercosur-EU agreement approved in Congress and promulgated into law. And that triggered a provision in the agreement that allowed the European Commission to make the agreement effective as soon as one Mercosur country promulgated the law, and they could put it in effect provisionally without waiting for the European Parliament to approve it. We've also signed Mercosur's EFTA agreement, and we're working in many, many agreements more. We have the Mercosur-Singapore that we're going to send to Congress soon. We are dealing with UAE, Canada, Panama, El Salvador, Ecuador, Vietnam, and the UK in putting together different trade and investment agreements through Mercosur and also bilaterally. As I said before, we have this sense of urgency that doesn't allow us to lose any second of time, because we need to consolidate this and we need to open ourselves to the world. It's a paradox that 20 years ago in Mar del Plata, there was a summit of the Americas. President Bush was there. The other Latin American presidents were there as well. President Chavez, with President Kirchner, created a counter summit. From there on came the infamous phrase, alca, al carajo. It's great to say that 20 years later, we are screaming, viva la libertad, carajo. As Toto usually says, history sometimes changes. This is the time we are inviting you all to be part of it. Thank you.